Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Katie Earle. I'm the coordinator of the University Express program, and we're joined here virtually with Rachel Ceness from BlueCross BlueShield. Really excited to have her here with us today. And before we get started, as always, we do have some new folks joining us, which is exciting. We'll just go over a couple housekeeping things. Just letting you know that we are recording this session, and I'll try to post it on our website at a later date. Also, you may think you're the only person here participating with us today, but I promise you there are others. It's just that we're in anonymous participation mode, so only Rachel and I can see everyone who's in here. And we'll also be communicating with you through the Q&A panel. So if you have any questions or comments, type those in right away, and we'll try to address as many as we can at the end of the presentation. And for some of you, when you joined, that Q&A panel popped up on your right side of your screen. You may just have to expand it, and then you'll see the text box. Send your questions right to me. And then if you don't see that, likely on the bottom right side of your screen, you'll see a half circle with a square and a question mark that says Q&A. Click on that. Or if you're on a tablet or smartphone, poke or touch your screen. You'll see your control panel. Click on the circle with 3 dots, and then you should have it. So we hope you participate with us. And again, thank you for being here. So I want to thank the sponsors of our program. It's my Department of Senior Services, BlueCross BlueShield of Western New York, Excelsior Orthopedics, and Wegmans, because they help make the program possible. And as always, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at Senior Services. We're here to help however we can, whether it's questions about benefits, services, or programs for you or a loved one. We're at 858-8526. And I will introduce our speaker today. Rachel is a health coach and registered dietitian at BlueCross BlueShield. Her background in exploration of behavior change and psychology led her down the path towards discovering the power of mindfulness. Through personal experience as well as facilitating classes on the subject, she's witnessed the benefits of living more intentionally and integrating mindfulness practices into daily life. Rachel, I'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Katie. I'm so excited to be here this afternoon. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day. So we're going to be talking all about mindfulness today, and I hope that you find the presentation to be helpful and that you walk away feeling like you have some tools in your toolbox in order to apply some of these tips and techniques to your daily life. Okay, so the purpose of this presentation is going to be to provide an overview of what mindfulness is and how you can incorporate it into your daily life. So really to provide you practical tips and tools that you can start using right away, and also to empower you to create habits and practices that facilitate a more mindful way of living. So I hope that you're able to walk away not only with things that you can do today, but things that you can kind of begin to implement over time and really start to see some shifts. So just starting out with, what is mindfulness exactly? So mindfulness is defined as the state of active, open attention on the present. So when you're mindful, you carefully observe your thoughts and feelings without judging them good or bad. Being mindfulness means living in the moment and awakening to your current experience rather than dwelling on the past or anticipating the future. So just some of the many benefits of mindfulness, and this is just a fraction of the benefits. There's definitely a lot more out there, and there has been a lot of research done around mindfulness, and I'll get into that a little bit more with some more specific scientific data, but there's always more research being done and more benefits being scientifically proven, which I think is awesome. So some of the benefits include improved regulation of emotions, reduced stress, increased immune function, increased clarity in thinking and perception, decreased levels of anxiety and depression, enhanced feelings of connectedness, and improved general health. So I think we can all relate to really wanting these things. You know, we all want lower stress level, we want to be healthy, we want to feel connected, And that's why it's so important, and that's why it's so powerful to learn about the practice of mindfulness. So going a little bit more in detail about the effect of mindfulness on the brain specifically. So in one study that was done, and this assessed people after an 8-week mindfulness course, found that the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, and other areas of the brain experience heightened activity. The amygdala experienced decreased functional activity and earlier deactivation after exposure to emotionally charged stimuli. And if you're not so scientifically up on all of the terminology and all of those big words and everything, I'm going to go into what it actually means in a more easy to understand and tangible sense. So basically, the areas of the brain that are associated with higher level functioning were more active, and the area of the brain that handles stress and strong emotions was less involved or less active. So the meaning of that is that participants experienced better emotion control, less reactivity, and higher levels of intellectual performance. So before we get into some more specifics and some tools, some mindfulness tools that you can try out, I just wanted to list some important things to remember about mindfulness. One of the most important things is remembering that it's a practice. So this means that it's something that you can work on and something that you can build day by day. So it's not like something you just do once and then you forget about it, or something you do just a few times and then you expect it to really shift and change your life just from those few experiences. So the more consistent that you are with these practices, the more benefits you will experience in the long run, especially if you stick with it for a longer period of time. So the longer that you're able to be consistent with it, the more benefits you will experience in the long term. Also, another really important point is that it does not have to take a lot of your time or effort to practice. So even 10 minutes of mindfulness exercises have proven benefits, which I think is amazing because everyone can fit 10 minutes of something in their day. And it doesn't seem so overwhelming or so intimidating when you think about it in just a 10-minute fraction or 10-minute segment of your day or of your time. So just remembering that if you don't have a lot of time or if you are busy, there are definitely ways that you can fit in some of these tools and some of these exercises into your schedule. And then also it can look different for everyone. So it's definitely not, it's not a tool or it's not really one tool to begin with, but it's not anything that is a one size fits all approach. So there's not really a right or a wrong way to do it. So it's really just about finding what works for you and then just being consistent with it, like I mentioned before. And there are so many ways to incorporate mindfulness into your daily life. So from what we cover today, you can kind of see what immediately sticks out to you, what resonates with you, and what you're attracted to, in terms of trying things out. But it may not be the best fit, and you might want to go back and try something else or try a different way of incorporating it into your life. And that's perfectly fine because there's, like I said, really an infinite number of ways to incorporate mindfulness into your life. So this is a really good illustration of what it means to be mindful and present. And it's really powerful when you think about it. So our body is always in the present moment. We don't really have a choice. We're in the here and now. And oftentimes our mind is not. So we're either thinking about the past, we're maybe ruminating about something that happened yesterday or decades ago, or we're thinking about the future and maybe we're feeling anxious or maybe we're planning something in the future. So mindfulness is all about giving yourself that time and that space to get your mind back to the present moment. and just to be able to have that time for yourself. So just getting into some ideas of how to incorporate mindfulness, and we'll go into all of these in greater detail later in the presentation. But just to give you a few ideas, one idea is to start a gratitude practice. So gratitude is really one of the most powerful things that we can do in order to start to shift where we're at, especially our mood, especially if we're feeling down about something. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But asking yourself what you're grateful for every day. Also, just taking a few minutes to pause, looking around, noticing different things around you, especially anything that you deem as beautiful or positive, or that really makes you joyful or happy, and just kind of taking the time to consciously focus your attention on those things. And meditation, so I'll talk about this in a little while as well, but meditation is really a beautiful practice too, and it doesn't have to take a lot of your time, and it doesn't have to feel intimidating. So it can be for just 5 minutes, and simply anything that you can do just to enjoy that chance to be still. And then something as simple as closing your eyes and taking a few deep breaths. And that's one of my favorite things on a daily basis, just if I am feeling maybe a little bit anxious or just getting wrapped up in the day-to-day things that are happening, just simply closing your eyes and taking even just 3 deep breaths and just noticing the difference before and after that, and how that small change or that small practice can really start to shift things. So a little bit more about gratitude. So what exactly is gratitude? So it's the quality of being thankful and readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. The act of feeling and expressing gratitude itself can facilitate mindfulness and provide an array of benefits. So gratitude, independent of other sorts of mindfulness practices, has a lot of benefits in and of itself, which I think is amazing. And this is one of my favorite quotes down at the bottom here. And it says, "It's not happiness that brings us gratitude, it's gratitude that brings us happiness." So I think that's really important to remember and just to kind of go back to every so often, especially if you find yourself in a difficult place or a challenging situation. Just remembering that there's always going to be something that you can be grateful for, and really choosing to focus your attention on those things and on gratitude will really improve your quality of life and will really allow you to tap into more joy and more happiness, and versus waiting around for things to improve or for you to feel happy in order to feel grateful. So it's kind of backwards. So just kind of reminding yourself of that every so often. Okay, so some of the specific benefits of gratitude. The first one is that it can open the door to new relationships. It can improve your physical health, so you can experience fewer aches and pains and increase longevity. It can improve your psychological health, and you can experience fewer negative emotions as a result. It can enhance your empathy and reduce levels of aggression. It can improve your quality of sleep, improve your self-esteem, and increase mental strength and foster resilience. So another way that you can start to become a little bit mindful in just the day-to-day, the everyday moments, is to really just start to appreciate the small things around you. And these can be oftentimes the things that we overlook, or that we even sometimes take for granted, or we just simply don't notice because they're always there. So mindfulness really can be as simple as becoming more aware of your surroundings. And no matter what environment you're in, you can always seek out something beautiful or something that you appreciate or something that you're grateful for. So just taking a few moments, it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but just taking a few moments to appreciate those little things that maybe you may have once either taken for granted or just simply not noticed at all. So going back to breath and just how powerful this can be as well in order to get you back into that mindful present state. Taking a few deep breaths can really help us to slow down. So especially if you're feeling anxious or stressed out, it really helps us to reduce our stress levels, reduce the stress hormones that are circulating through your body if you're feeling that way. And it helps to reset your mood and bring you back into the present moment. And the great thing about breath is that we're doing it all day anyway, so why not be a little bit more focused and intentional with it? So it's something that can obviously be done anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter, what you're doing. All you really need is a little bit of space. And, if you want to close your eyes, especially, making sure you're somewhere where obviously don't do it while you're driving if you're closing your eyes. But even if you are driving, you can still take deep breaths and you can still be more conscious and focus on your breathing. So there is a plethora of different types of breathing exercises and techniques out there. There's even specific apps for your smartphone that have breathing techniques built right in, or that kind of walk you through different types of breathing techniques, and videos online, different resources, and different specific techniques there if you're interested in learning more. But it can be really simple as well. You can just try inhaling for 5 seconds and then exhaling for 5 seconds and closing your eyes if you want, but you don't have to also. You can leave them open if that feels more comfortable. But really the most important thing is just to be really intentional about it and just to give yourself a few minutes to kind of slow down in the middle of your day and just to be able to sink into that present moment. So getting into meditation a little bit more, it really can be much simpler than you may think. So maybe you've tried it, maybe you haven't, maybe you're intimidated by it and you think that it has to take an hour a day, or you think that you have to empty your mind completely. So there's a lot of misconceptions about what meditation is and what it has to look like. But in reality, there's actually a lot of different types and varieties of meditation. And just a few of these are listed here. So there's things like mindfulness meditation, guided meditations, transcendental meditation, Kundalini, and Qigong as different types of meditative movement practices. So the great thing about meditation is that there's benefits to any type of meditation that you do. And these include things like reducing your blood pressure, lower levels of anxiety, improved circulation, and deep relaxation. So this graphic here, it might be a little hard to read. I know there's a lot of writing on it, but I'll just kind of walk through some of the basics here. So it's just a little graphic that kind of walks you through how to start meditating and some things to kind of focus on. So the first thing is that it really isn't about the length of time that you're spending. So it's more about the quality and the intention. So even if you want to commit 5 minutes or 10 minutes to trying some sort of a meditation practice, it's really going to be about the consistency when you're really looking to experience the benefits that meditation brings to the table. And of course, finding a place where you feel comfortable, where you have privacy, free from distractions, and where you're able to get into a position where your body feels relaxed and comfortable. So you don't even necessarily have to sit. A lot of us have this preconceived notion that in order to meditate, we have to be, cross-legged or sitting on the floor. But in reality, you can lie down, you can sit in a chair, you can do, there's walking meditations that you can do. So if being seated in that position really doesn't appeal to you, or maybe, you're physically not able to do that, there's definitely other options. And yeah, and this just explains a little bit more about that, and it's a little bit more easy to read. So I'll just move along to this one. So like I said, finding a comfortable and quiet spot, closing your eyes definitely helps with setting that intention and focus. And if you're doing something like a walking meditation, obviously you don't really want to be closing your eyes. But if you're doing like a still, seated meditation, closing your eyes can really help to kind of deepen the practice. And a great place to always start is just to focus on your breathing. So just focus on your inhales, your exhales, and really just notice the flow of your breath in and out through your nose or through your mouth, or however you're breathing. And another really important thing to remember is that you don't have to try to control your thoughts. And of course, nobody's ever going to be able to empty their mind of all thoughts, or to be able to really clear out their mind completely. But I like to think about it as just trying to observe your thoughts instead of trying to really get too wrapped up in them. So a great metaphor there is to think about each thought as a cloud kind of floating by in the sky, and just kind of allow it to come in and see it, observe it, but then you can also allow it to kind of drift by or drift out without giving it your full focus and attention. So speaking of focus, that's another really big area and topic related to mindfulness that is very relevant these days and very important to address, because life is so busy and can sometimes feel overwhelming. And we have this tendency to multitask and to be doing many things at once. It's kind of the way of our society that we're usually trying to work on one thing while we're also doing this, while we're looking at this, or we have, like multiple tabs open, basically, whether that's literally or figuratively in your mind or with what you're doing. So the more that you can create more focus, it's actually going to really enhance your experience of being present and of being mindful in the moment. So trying to simplify the things that you're doing and focusing on one thing at a time whenever you can be really helpful with this. And of course, it's not always going to be perfect. I know it would be very difficult to focus on just one thing at all moments throughout the day, because just the way that things are set up and the way that our lives are, there's usually different things going on. But just whenever you have a chance, focusing on one thing at a time can be really beneficial. So a really kind of surprising statistic that I learned when I was researching to create this presentation a while back is that multitasking is actually known to reduce your productivity by up to 40%. And I thought that was really interesting and really shocking, I guess, because so many of us think the opposite. We think that by multitasking, we're going to save time, we're going to be able to do more, we're going to be able to get more done in less time. But what happens is our brain can't really focus on 5 different things at once. So we end up kind of spreading our attention and focus and our energy in all these different areas and directions, and maybe not really finishing or following through with each of those tasks. So that's why focusing on one thing at a time can actually make you more efficient and more productive at the end of the day. So a great way to get started with this is try thinking of your priorities for one specific day. So try coming up with your top 3 priorities or important tasks for each day, and whether it be in the morning or whenever you have time to focus on those things, try doing them one at a time and kind of checking them off as you go. So maybe your top priority, that's the thing that you want to get done first. And when that's done and complete, then you can move on to number 2. And when you complete your priority list, then you can kind of see what time allows from there. And then you can focus your attention on other things. But I think it can be really helpful and beneficial to just think of those priorities ahead of time, especially maybe like the day before or when you're planning for the next day or the next week. So another practice that can really contribute to being more mindful in your day-to-day life is to reduce your screen time. So I think we're all aware that the use of technology has really become what some would call like an epidemic, and it's really reduced our attention spans drastically. So cutting back on technology, especially and specifically smartphones, can really help us to be a lot more present and mindful. And focusing on real life conversations, of course, will allow those deeper connections and appreciation for others. And I know, this is kind of interesting. This is the first time I've done this presentation recently, post COVID times and everything. And it's just interesting because so much has gone virtual this year. Obviously, we're kind of relying on technology a little bit more, but I think whenever we can, have a phone conversation with someone versus just texting, or just those little ways that you can create a deeper connection with someone and just rely a little bit less on, the technology. But of course, it's an amazing tool, and obviously, especially this year, we're all really grateful that we have access to this and, virtual presentations such as this, and all of the different ways that we've been able to stay connected. And then cutting yourself off from technology 2 hours before bedtime or before you go to sleep can really help greatly with sleep quality as well. So the devices, our smartphone or TV, they emit a lot of blue light, which can interrupt and interfere with our melatonin, which is the hormone that helps us relax and kind of fall asleep at the end of the night. So giving yourself a little bit of a break before you go to sleep from technology can be really helpful, especially if you're someone who struggles with that, if you have insomnia, or if you struggle with falling asleep at night. And of course, if you can, keeping technology out of your bedroom, TV, phone, anything like that. So another thing that's it sounds really simple, but it's actually really powerful when you think about it, is to focus on joy. So when you choose to pay more attention to the positive things in your life, your outlook will improve. So limiting your complaining and your negative talk. I think we all are probably aware that when you're around other people that are complaining or that are really, talking really negatively, it's easy to kind of get down to that level or start to maybe do the same thing. So I think it's really important, especially when you're looking to kind of uplift other people around you as well, just choose to put more of your attention and focus on the positive things. Focusing more on the joy, the happiness, the beauty that surrounds you every day. So kind of connecting it back to gratitude again, just really being grateful for those good things. And of course, it doesn't mean you have to ignore the negative or the bad things, but just choosing to spend a little bit more time focusing on those positive things and just remembering the things that you're grateful for. So a really great activity that you can do surrounding this is to make yourself what I like to call a joy list. So this is going to be a list of 10 activities that bring you joy, and then making the conscious effort to do those more often. So this can be something that you can physically write down on a piece of paper, or you can type it up and print it out and just have it somewhere that you can see it for reference. And the great thing about this is when you're in a bad mood, or when you're feeling really grumpy or really down about something, it's a beautiful tool that you can reference back to, and you can kind of remember the things that bring you joy. Because sometimes when we're in those places where we're feeling kind of down, we forget, and we just kind of start to ruminate in that darker mood, and we don't always remember the things that actually bring us joy. And these can be really simple things. It can be, maybe there's a certain song that every single time you put it on, it brings a smile to your face. Or maybe it's looking at some pictures of your family, or maybe it's calling a certain friend or family member, or cooking a certain dish, just things like that. So just generating those ideas and then having those all in one place where you can have that visual reminder for yourself, I think can be a really helpful tool. So another practice is mindful eating, and this could be a topic all within itself because there's a lot to it, but I definitely thought that it was important to bring up because so many people, especially these days, we rush through our meals, we're eating on the go, we're mindlessly snacking, and this often leads to a disconnect from our food. And when we do take the time to slow down, we can actually appreciate our food. We end up feeling more satisfied, and it can physically improve our digestion. So I know that there have been studies done around mindful eating and just the physical benefits of it, not only just the mental benefits of, appreciation and feeling more satisfied, but it actually improves your physical digestion as well when you're able to eat a little bit more slowly, more mindfully, chew your food more thoroughly, all of those things. It helps you to digest it better and absorb more of the nutrients. So the main thing here is going to be to limit distractions when you're eating. So TV, phone, anything else that you have going on when you're trying to, again, multitask and do multiple things at once. And I know that this is such a common thing that so many of us do. And of course, we can't avoid it all the time. We're not always going to be able to sit down for an hour-long, extravagant meal, or be able to take that amount of time every day. But just try limiting those distractions as much as you can, and try focusing on your food a little bit more. And this plate right here, this kind of walks us through some different components of what mindful eating could entail. And I'll just kind of summarize these because I know it might be kind of small to read. But just being aware, so just really tasting your food versus mindlessly munching. So again, when you are avoiding those distractions, you're able to really pick out the flavors and the textures, and just noticing all the different qualities of the food. And that goes along with this other section called savor. So savoring, all the aromas, the flavors, and noticing, and even discussing if you're eating with someone else, maybe having a discussion and really talking about your gratitude for, or your appreciation for, how this dish has a really good balance of salty and sweet, or it's just the right amount of spicy, or whatever it might be. So just kind of vocalizing that too, I think, can increase your appreciation. And then also another component of mindful eating is just observing how you're feeling physically during the experience of eating. So noticing those cues that are going on within your body before eating, during eating, and then after. So when is your stomach starting to rumble? Are you feeling satisfied? Are you starting to feel full? Are you feeling really stressed? How are you feeling physically? And when we start to observe those things, we become more aware and maybe even putting together some patterns of, maybe we wait too long to eat and we aren't really being very mindful there of when we need to think about, our next meal. And then, of course, being in the moment, so being fully present and just eating whenever you can. And then non-judgment. So this kind of speaks to just being compassionate with yourself and just remembering that when it comes to eating, just noticing when you're judging yourself for eating certain things that maybe you shouldn't, or just kind of allowing yourself to have a little bit more compassion and flexibility with yourself in those moments. So this just kind of goes through all of those things. Again, being aware, savoring, observing, being in the moment, and then non-judgment. And then I just listed a few other ways to practice mindfulness because, like I said, there's just so many. There's a very expansive number of different practices and different things that you can do. And it's really important to find the things that you really are attracted to or that you really resonate with in order to be able to make this a consistent part of your daily life. So a few other ways to practice mindfulness, things like yoga, prayer, journaling, immersion in nature, and then just really reminding yourself that anything that you do as an everyday activity, you can do it in a more mindful way. So just thinking about the difference between doing something mindlessly and doing something mindfully. When we're doing something mindlessly, we're kind of on that autopilot mode where we're just kind of going through the motions and we're not really even thinking about it. So even if it's something that you do every single day, like driving, to a certain destination, just trying to be a little bit more mindful. And that might mean, observing things that you didn't really notice before, or picking things out along the way that are really beautiful, that you really appreciate. So different things like that. So really any activity can be turned into a mindfulness activity or a mindfulness practice. And then I just have some of my references listed here. So feel free to jot any of these down if you're interested in diving a little bit more deeply into mindfulness. And I also have on the next slide some book recommendations, some further reading if you really want to do more research on your own and really learn more about mindfulness and really start to establish more of a practice for yourself. So the first book is called 10-Minute Mindfulness, and that one is by S.J. Scott and Barry Davenport. The second one is called Mindfulness, an 8-Week Plan for Finding Peace in a Frantic World, and that one's by Mark Williams and Danny Penman. And then the next one's called Wherever You Go, There You Are, Mindfulness Meditation in Everyday Life. And that one is by John Kabat-Zinn. And then the last one is all about mindful eating. So that one's called Mindful Eating, A Guide to Rediscovering a Healthy and Joyful Relationship with Food. And that one's by Jan Chosen Bays. So that pretty much wraps up the presentation. So I would love to take any questions if anyone has questions at this time. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time and attention. And I hope that this was beneficial and that you're able to walk away and take something from this and something that you can start to incorporate even today, or just start to generate some ideas in terms of how you can practice mindfulness in your life.
Thank you, Rachel, for that information. That was wonderful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We do have some comments, and folks, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and type those in that Q&A panel that you can access at the side of your screen, the bottom, or your control panel. So the first comment I'm seeing is this person is attending a meditation class tomorrow, virtually, I'm assuming, because it's from Orlando. So that's neat. The next comment I'm seeing, I remember when multitasking was the way everyone was supposed to work. Boy, that was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think it was, yeah, just very trendy for a while. And, it still is, but I think that more people are kind of waking up to the fact that maybe there's another way and that maybe that's not the best way to, to get things done anymore.
Agreed. I'm seeing a question. Can you recommend any mindfulness apps?
One that I know of that's good. I'm not sure what kind of, I know it's really good for meditation and they have different things on there. It's called Insight Timer. And yeah, there's a lot of resources on that app. I know that one is really, really pretty good. So I would recommend checking that one out.
Okay, thank you. I'm seeing a comment. Thanks so much. The next question I'm seeing is, pandemic fatigue is so depressing. How do you get started out of the rut?
Yeah, I think obviously this year has presented a lot of new challenges and just really increased a lot of people's, levels of anxiety and so many things. And I think that really it's, whatever is kind of grabbing your attention from this presentation. So if there's something that really stuck out to you, like maybe you want to try meditation, or maybe you want to create a joy list, that could actually be a really good one to focus on right now, especially if you are, still at home a lot and you're still kind of in that, more quarantine state where you're not really seeing a lot of people or going out. Just thinking about some activities that you can do at home that bring you joy. So like I mentioned before, just, maybe it's looking at a video or pictures of your family, or maybe it's a certain song, and just having those written down somewhere can really jog your memory. So that way, when you're feeling like kind of stuck or kind of, down, or you're in that rut, just kind of a way to kind of pick yourself back up and just remind yourself of those things.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm seeing comments. Great class. Yes, love the joy list idea.
Wonderful.
And the next comment I'm seeing, and this is the last one for right now, is thank you, Rachel. You've given us a lot to work with to relieve our stresses. I'm a multitasker.
Yeah, it's easy to step away from that. I mean, I feel it too, because there's just so much going on all the time. So it definitely takes a lot of practice, I would say, and a lot of attention to really be able to focus on one thing at a time. But I think it's worth trying, and it's worth practicing and kind of getting yourself to that place where you're able to be a little bit more mindful about things.
Absolutely, I agree. So I'm seeing last comment is awesome. And while everyone's here, just another plug for another BlueCross BlueShield speaker. On Tuesday, October 27th at 2 p.m., we have Miranda McCoy, who's going to do Ditch the Negative Self-Talk. So that could really be a nice pairing with this. And the last comment, interesting stat on multitasking. I thought I was just getting dumb.
Yeah, it's so counterintuitive, because we think that we're doing ourselves a favor when we're trying to do everything at once. But I think, again, just like splitting your attention in too many directions, and you find yourself feeling kind of frazzled. So yeah, I think it's a good one to remember.
All right. Well, I just want to thank Rachel, you again for doing this. This information is awesome. I'll post the recording to our website if everything worked out with it. So the quality is good. And again, everyone, just appreciate you being here. So I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.